You suck with Skarsnik. Admit it. Go on, please, admit it. And today I'm going to tell you why. You will finally understand why you're so bad with the Crooked Moonz as a faction in Immortal Empires. Are you being brutally cunning enough? Or perhaps you're not being cunningly brutal enough? Sit back and relax, for today I will show you the true path to Skarsnik's salvation. I will demonstrate to you why the campaigns you've had have ended in disaster and not dominance. And by Gork, or perhaps Mork, I'm going to let you know why you suck with Skarsnik. And of course, Gobbla. My name is Blake, and I bid you my fondest welcome to Blake's Takes, where today I'll be giving you my take on why you're so sloppy with Skarsnik. Is my take hot or not? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new here and you enjoy this video, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. Now, you gobbos and grots, let's get to crumping. Reason you suck with Skarsnik. Number 1. You don't make use of your starting power. For what is often considered a very challenging campaign, you're actually extremely strong in the early game. You start with a beautiful Arachnarok Spider, 2 units of Night Goblin Fanatics, and 2 units of regular Night Goblins. These units are all considered high tier units, and your Night Goblins with Fanatics will do an extreme amount of damage to early game units. If they're used correctly, of course. Make sure you're stationary when activating the Fanatic's ability, as I find that if you use them on the charge, your Night Goblins will charge into them and do a lot of damage to themselves. Quite thematically, I suppose. You're also equipped with a barracks building in your starting province, which allows you to recruit nasty skulkers from turn 1. On turn 1, once you've sacked and occupied the World's Edge archway, immediately begin recruiting these little devils. On turn 2, take the last settlement of your starting province and immediately recruit more nasty skulkers. Nasty skulkers are an absolute powerhouse of a goblin unit. They're cheap, expendable, they stalk, have a smoke bomb, and they have high armor-piercing weapon damage. I find because of their small size, multiple models can surround enemies and get a surprising amount of damage done. Remember that these nasty little goblins will be the key to your success in the early game, and they punch well above their weight if you fight battles manually. They fare far less well in auto-resolve, however, so you'll often be forced to fight the battles manually. But don't let the auto-resolve fool you. They trade extremely well, even into the toughest of opponents. They are fragile though, so try not to let them get charged by cavalry or monsters. If a charge is unavoidable, use their smoke bomb ability to dampen the blow. I like to sneak a few units around the flanks of the front line to rip enemies to shreds. I like to keep 2 of them as a support to the Night Goblin and Arachnarok Spider front line, and then I send the majority of my skulkers to envelop the enemy from the flanks. Utilize their passive invisibility to execute a devastating pincer movement to drown the enemy in these vicious little creatures. You're also the only lord in the game that can lightning strike from level 1. This allows you to pick and choose more favourable battles, giving you a massive advantage when picking off armies one by one. Unfortunately, your units will start the battle very tired if you do this, so this isn't as strong as it was in Warhammer 2, but it's still very helpful in evening up the odds when multiple enemy armies are within reinforcement range of each other. Remember, you're very powerful in the first few turns of the campaign. You must utilise this early starting power with extreme aggression. If you let your enemies get ahead, your campaign will become very difficult. Utilize your powerful starting units and rush your surrounding enemies with a horde of nasty skulkers to quickly get ahead of your enemies. Reason you suck with Skarsnik. Number 2. You don't goad the Grudgebearer. After taking your starting province, you will eventually meet up with Thorgrim Grudgebearer. Luckily, you have precisely the tools to deal with him, and by that, I mean you have a goading lord which you should have recruited at turn 1. You can use this lord to bait him into an ambush by appearing weak where we are in fact strongest. Thorgrim will be goaded into making a reckless and foolish attack. You need to declare war and deal with Thorgrim Grudgebearer hard and fast in the early game. Leaving him to consolidate his power is extremely ill-advised. Luckily, your nasty skulkers will be able to chew through his early game troops with their high armor piercing stats. Don't be disheartened by the auto-resolve, you're more than capable of dispatching his army. Just ensure that you're using your skulkers out on the flanks as I described in Reason 1. They need to get rid of his quarrelers and thunderers. The dwarf ranged contingent are their damage dealers, which will quickly clap the cheeks of your goblins if left unchecked. Once your skulkers have finished with the range units, send them round to envelop the rest of his army. The only other threats in Thorgrim's army are his hammerers and Thorgrim himself. Use your Night Goblin Fanatics ability on the hammerers and send Skarsnik and the Arachnarok Spider after Thorgrim. Their bonus versus large attacks will quickly make short work of him in the early game. The rest of Thorgrim's tattered armies will be a cakewalk. If his armies are outside of a settlement but within range of garrison reinforcements, then use your passive lightning strike ability to break them into more manageable parts. The largest challenge will be taking Karak. Your best bet is to abuse your stealthy units to climb the walls over all sides of the city and aim to capture the 2 victory points, whilst your Arachnarok Spider breaks down the gates. Capture both victory points and hold them until the tickets expire to cause all of their forces to run away. As you can see in this campaign, I have wiped out Thorgrim by turn 8. You must be aggressive. Do not let Thorgrim get ingrained into his starting province. Encourage him to come away from the safety of his garrisons. Appear weak where you are strong and make the enemy fight on your terms. Reason you suck with Skarsnik. Number 3. You don't know which way to expand. You start your shenanigans slap bang in the centre of the map. You have a blank canvas of places to loot, raid and pillage. But which way is the best for the Crooked Moonz? Perhaps west to Karak to take on Slayer King Ungrim. Perhaps east towards the Chaos Dwarfs. The answer, my dear Grots, is always south. You might be tempted by the glitz and glamour of Zhar Naggrund.
Hot diggity dog! This place is magnificent. An embarrassment of riches, as they say.
We have seen many videos of rushing there and taking the seat of her shut for an early Tier 4 settlement. But is it worth it? A Tier 4 settlement is nice early on, but you have more pressing concerns in the south. As mentioned previously, Thorgrim is a necessary target for early crumping, but there are other reasons for southward expansion. Yes, Karak 8 Peaks is also down south. It is your primary campaign objective to reclaim the fabled stronghold for yourself. But it's not the main reason why I encourage southern territorial expansion over any other way. It factors into it, but it's not the primary reason why you should venture out this way. In fact, I'd warn against making a direct beeline for Karak 8 Peaks, as it'll embroil you in a big fight in a dangerous part of town, where you'll have multiple enemies on all fronts. No, the reason you should expand south is... Reason you suck with Skarsnik, number 4. You don't wreck Wurrzag early. That's right, Wurrzag and the Bloody Hands are why you should expand south. Once you have wiped out Thorgrim, Wurrzag should be your next immediate target. You want to take advantage of the Greenskins' innate ability to confederate factions once you have defeated their faction leader in a battle. The reason you need to rush this is twofold. Firstly, the AI can ruin this character if left to their own devices for too long. You want to confederate Wurrzag as quickly as possible to prevent the AI from spending his precious skill points in silly ways. Secondly, Wurrzag is an extremely potent legendary lord on the battlefield who can convert his entire army's damage to magic damage and strip the magic resistance of his enemies. It's a really broken ability on top of his ability to spam the Foot of Gork for minimal wins of magic. You need to make sure that the AI doesn't squander these abilities. You see, Skarsnik is not a good battle lord. He really doesn't provide anything unique with his combat abilities which you couldn't get from a basic Night Goblin war boss. His strengths are in the overworld campaign map, where he can make use of increased ambush success chance and his passive lightning strike. This is why you need Wurrzag early. You need to offset Skarsnik's weaknesses as a battle lord with this finely tuned, dancing, battling machine. Make sure to scoop him up early. I find that an early Wurrzag is far more valuable than a tier 4 settlement, so don't give in to the hype. Zhar Naggrund can wait. Go get the Great Green Prophet. Wurrzag will be invaluable in your taking of Karak 8 Peaks. Train him up enough to make sure he's got the Foot of Gork and the Fury of the Prophet ability, and you'll have a much easier time taking the stronghold. Reason you suck with Skarsnik, number 5. You don't know Greenskin ABR. ABR, as I like to call it, stands for Always Be Raiding. The Greenskins have an excellent encampment stance that doubles up as their raiding stance. It has basically no downsides. Your troops get access to replenishment, you can access global recruitment, your units get leadership and melee defense buffs in battle, ambush defense charms for when you're fighting those sneaky little rat men, and all the while earning a tidy bit of money and some scrap. Unlike other factions, there is no movement penalty for entering this stance, so you're encouraged to go nuts with it. Unless you're trying to ambush an enemy army, you should basically be in this stance whenever you're in neutral or enemy territory. Be advised, if you're in friendly territory, you'll be raiding either yours or your allies' territory, which will either drop income or reduce diplomatic relations respectively with any allies you may, or most likely may not have.
And this is where I put
my allies.
If I had one! Sorry.
Reason you suck with Skarsnik, number 6. You don't know how to defend your territory. With all of the Greenskins factions, you should be doing a lot of fighting and looting. This will inevitably lead to you capturing a lot of territory along the way. Greenskins make their money by sacking enemy territories, but you will want to occupy the territory afterwards to prevent your enemies from using it further. This can lead to a large and unwieldy empire, which a lot of people struggle to defend. Well, this is where you need to reevaluate how you think about defense. Greenskin defense should be minimal. The best defense is a good offense. Firstly, you have your economy building, the pile of shiny stuff. This building is actually a hidden gem. It takes one turn to build, and within one turn of it being up and running, you'll have made your money back. So the return on investment is fast to recuperate. If you're sure you can defend an area for a couple of turns, it is worth building this building. In every settlement I capture, I'll have one of these buildings inside of it, and that's basically all I'll put in that settlement until I am confident that I have secured the province and it is in no immediate danger. Remember, you are not a building faction. You do not trade. You're not part of the industrial capitalist societies that surround you. You reject the petty squabbles of the bourgeoisie. Everything is seized for the good of the state.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
We did 20 ticks, and that was the best one.
It's a scorched earth policy. All I put in my frontier settlements is a pile of shiny stuff. I don't repair the main settlement building, and I don't build anything else until I know that there is absolutely no possibility of attack. It's a form of liquid defense. The enemy can invade the poor level 1 settlement and take it back, but it doesn't matter. I've extracted enough value from it by sacking and holding it with a pile of shiny things that I've recouped all I've invested in the settlement and made a healthy profit. So the enemy can have it back. I will simply continue to plunder their other provinces, and the enemy can take my leavings. Do not get bogged down trying to defend all your settlements. Attack more cities, sack them, then occupy them. Build the tier 1 pile of shiny stuff and move on until you can consolidate the province. Only invest in a province when it has surrounding regions which can buffer it from the enemy. Do not get weighed down in defensive wars. Simply let the enemy take the territory back. You need to be focused on your wars of aggression. Greenskin garrisons are very poor. Don't waste valuable sacking time trying to defend your backwater settlements. Keep pressing into enemy territory and just sack and occupy more. Leave your settlements unguarded. They don't matter. When you understand this concept, you will finally understand why you suck with not only Skarsnik, but all Greenskins factions. You'll finally get it. Reason you suck with Skarsnik. Number 7. You don't own the Warden and the Paunch DLC. I'm sorry, it has to be said. You're going to have a much harder time with Skarsnik if you don't have this DLC. You lose access to some of the biggest hitters on the Greenskins roster, which hits the Crooked Moonz harder than other Greenskins factions. Firstly, you lose access to your centerpiece monster, the Rogue Idol, a huge unbreakable behemoth which acts as a linchpin for your forces in the late game. It is the only tier 5 unit the Greenskins have access to, so it's a shame not to have it. But most crucially, you lose access to Stone Trolls. This unit of monstrous infantry is, in my opinion, the best unit on the Greenskins roster, but they have more importance to Skarsnik because of his limitation in recruiting orcs. They will act as your reliable front line, with high armor, regeneration and very good armor-piercing damage values, a combination not found in any other goblin unit, apart from perhaps the Arachnarok spider. But this requires a tier 4 Gloomy Hollow to recruit. Stone Trolls only require a tier 3 Troll Den, and you're good to go. I can't understate the value that 2 or 3 of these hard-hitting units in every army can bring to the table. Unlocking these trolls grants you a big power spike, and not owning the DLC really punishes you, because regular trolls are so inferior in comparison to them, and Arachnaroks are a lot more expensive and require a tier 4 building. You also miss out on the River Troll Hag hero, which is also very useful and should not be overlooked. It's a competent melee combatant with good speed that buffs replenishment rate and can drop death magic on your foes. But again, I must stress, it's the stone trolls that I think really elevate the greenskins as a faction. If you don't have this DLC, it might be a more viable option to try and rush Zhar Naggrund for the tier 4 settlement and access to Arachnarok spiders. But this is not a necessity. You can access Savage Orcs if you take out Wurrzag, who can easily fill that gap for you. Just ensure that you have the Savage Orc barracks built in Ekrund. Savage Orc infantry is extremely good, and make very good account for themselves on the battlefield. At tier 3, you get access to the Savage Orc Biggins, who in my opinion is one of the best heavy infantry units in the game. These units do not have the Karak 8 peaks restriction other orcs have, so it's a great workaround for your frontline issues, and in my opinion makes Wurrzag even more of a priority. It's also easier to do than taking Zhar Naggrund, so the choice is yours, but I think that Wurrzag is the way forward. Skarsnik teaches us that the traditional Greenskin battle formula of heavy, slow infantry or monsters in the centre while cavalry advances from the flanks, is not always a necessity. Your goblins actually pack quite a punch and can stay in the fight longer than expected. Just ensure that you have a wide flanking force of goblins to submerge the enemy and drown them in the goblin tide. If the enemy has cavalry, you will need to sacrifice one of your flanking units to tie them up, whilst the rest of your goblins can complete the flanking mission. Well, that's it. That's why you suck with Skarsnik. Do you agree with my take? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, it really helps the channel out. I've been Blake, delivering my take. Thank you all so much for watching.